Hi, I am SB Rawz, a coach and messy whole human. And this is Mike Childress joining me for another All Up in It conversation, 35-ish minutes of reporting from the complicated and exhilarating midst of learning. After almost a year of making these, I have sort of a format to how they go, but we're going to do this one a little bit differently because Mike and I agreed ahead of time to do a little fourth wall break because we are dear friends.
Mhm.
And part of the magic of our friendship really centers around our differences. So I want to do a little introduction of myself, which I don't ever do on these things, before I kick it to you, Mike. So part of how I see myself as a human is as a secular Jew whose spiritual practices are informed by Buddhism and physics primarily. And so I want to just kick it to you from there, Mike, and ask you how you understand yourself as a human these days.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I I see myself as, of course, my phone rings. Um,
Such is life.
I see myself um, as a husband and a father, and all of that is informed by my Christian beliefs, as you know. And I love discussing with you because I love the way that we can kind of hear each other and there's not really tension over it. It's just I think there's curiosity and interest, and I think we both know that each other are thoughtful people, so we're interested to hear those types of things. So I'm glad that hasn't been a point of tension. I think it's been kind of a point of strength and interest in our relationship. But yeah, my Christian beliefs are the foundation of everything for me. So yeah, and they inform the type of husband and parent I am, hopefully, to my wife and kids. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I so appreciate that about you. And I think you and I, if I'm remembering correctly, we started this conversation in our very, very first meeting, like the
Yes.
very first time we crossed paths
We
as
did.
complete strangers.
Yeah, we're not good at small talk, I don't think.
Yeah. And
So,
from the very beginning, you've been incredibly cautious, like incredibly cautious about not wanting me to feel in any way as though you disapproved of my not being Christian or that you were in any way expecting me to join you in belief, but rather, as you said, a mutual curiosity about how our different sort of internal workings led to very similar like ethics and ways of being in the world. Does that feel accurate to you?
oh, I think so, and I'd say you've been equally or more gracious and cautious with me too, as well. I never feel pressure from you. I just feel like it's just this sort of beautiful. And it's also great because it's not the only thing we talk about either. It just it comes and goes naturally, so it never feels forced to me. Like I never feel like you're like, hey, we're talking about this today. It's just um but yes, yeah, I would say so. And yeah, and I don't know, I don't think you can really have a real friendship or relationship with somebody if you are trying to change them into something. I think that's just sort of a crazy way to be. And I have had people do that with me, and it's
Yeah.
not my favorite type of relationship. And yeah, I don't. So yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, gosh, I agree with you. And I think this is one of those particularly part of the reason I wanted to do this fourth wall break with you is because of how often it feels like these days that divisiveness is like the norm, especially around Christianity.
Yeah.
And I do have friends who are very much very rooted in Christian faith, but are shy to use the word because of sort of, and I really appreciate that you both stand, like you hold the word, right? You're like, I am a Christian, and also you very much like in all the ways walk your beliefs, you live your beliefs and
Thank
embody
you.
them.
Well, that's very kind of you to say. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
thanks. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm just honored, honestly, that you have hung in with me all these years, and the conversations are always, wonderful. So, yeah.
Agreed. I am grateful as well, my friend.
Hmm.
Well, I wonder if and how your faith informs what you're all up in these days and what you're all up in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think hopefully, like all of us are, I'm trying to focus on the important things and root out the unimportant, and I would say that this last year has been probably one of the bigger years for me for that. Just the last 12 months, not necessarily on purpose, but just kind of a series of events over the last 12 months, I think. And my faith has been a really great part of that. Like, I've I've been a Christian for a very long time. And my faith has held up and strengthened in this time, not been shaken or put down by some harder stuff over the last 12 months. And I think that it has helped me to just realize what's important. So I've always been really devoted to my family, but even more so now, like just this young man from the youth group when I was a youth pastor, he passed away, as you well know, and just kind of seeing my time with my kids, that's always been precious, but is even far more precious to me now. And just not wanting to focus so much on the tiny little behavioral issues, but just like I just want to be with them and just build like a relationship with them that's going to last, and just like I guess like savor that time with them. And I've been even more devoted to, trying to, make sure that I'm connecting with everyone in my family, and that I am diving deeper into the Bible, and I am going deeper and digging into things that, like, sometimes as you read through the Bible, it's easy to read through and be like, oh, it's kind of weird. I don't know what that is, and then just move on. And we've been challenged by one of the pastors at our church to be like, don't do that. Like, figure out what that means. So I guess in all ways, I've been doing that. And even in my own thought process, just like, as you well know, my dad passed away when I was 13. And I think because of this young man, Max, passing away, and a bunch of other stuff that's gone in my life, like it, I think, dredged up a lot of stuff about my dad that I've had to sort through. And instead of like shying away from that, I've been trying to face it head on, and it's been really helpful. So, nothing deep, no big deal. Like I said, there's no small talk with me. Like, that's what I've been doing the last year, just, soul searching and, digging to the depths of my soul, and, grief and pain. So,
Right, facing mortality head on.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Just the light stuff, yeah. So, yeah. So.
Yeah, exactly. I'm really curious about, when you are digging into the meaning that you find in the Bible, like how much of that is like reflecting on what that means to you as a unique individual, and how much of it is trying to understand the foundational meaning of that story or those words, or are those different things?
It's such a good question. See, that's why I like talking to you. Such a good question. I think it has to be both, because I think that like that I have to understand, I think, to the best of my ability, what that, like if you believe the Bible, you either believe it and its truth, or it's all a lie. Like, you kind of have to be all in on it. And because Jesus in scripture kind of demanded exclusivity, you know what I mean? And that, I think, could sound closed-minded. I think that that's what I mean, is like on a broad level, but like that doesn't mean that I see myself as that way, and that I can't hear anybody else's thoughts, because I learn so many things from people. But like, I think if something is true, it will remain true. You know what I mean? It's like, truth doesn't change over time, I don't think. So I'm not sure I'm explaining exactly what I mean, but I guess like I want to make sure that I understand what's being said and what's being meant. And then at that point, I need to see and understand how it applies to my life. And either it points out something that maybe I'm on the wrong path with.
Mhm.
Or it can also be very encouraging. Like scripture can be a very encouraging kind of thing. And also the fact that like the underlying point of the Bible and what Jesus said is like, yeah, you're not going to be able to do this on your own.
Yeah.
And to have the reassurance of, I am a son of God because of Jesus, is makes it that I don't have to be perfect. I just have to be turning towards him.
Mhm.
Like there's a guy in the Bible named David, and he did terrible things and made tons of mistakes, like all awful things. Like, I mean, I I made a lot of mistakes, but I haven't, done quite what David did. You know, not that you can rate sin, but like, I think he is called a man after God's own heart later on in scripture. And it's like, how is this guy a man after God's own heart? And I think it's because like throughout his life, he still kept turning back to God. He'd be like, I made a mistake and I'm turning back. I don't want to be this way. And I'm not just going to double down and be like, this is just who I am. It's like, he kept turning back. So I guess I guess I feel like I need to understand the truth that passage of scripture is trying to communicate, and then I need to, I guess do a comparison to my own life and see, do these two match up? Are they, is there a difference? Because if there's a difference, I think I know who's the culprit. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Gosh, I hear so much nuance in that. Like there's sort of an inherent redemption of like, or that goes along, I think, with the sort of inherent imperfection of being human,
Mhm.
right? Like that there's not it. So tell me if I'm on track, like that there's not an expectation that you will ever perfectly follow the
Mhm.
laws or guidance of God or Jesus, but that the continual endeavoring to.
Yeah. And well, yeah, I think maybe even less personal endeavoring over time and more surrender and
Mm,
turning to God. So like I feel like where I started out in Christianity, I think I've told you that my um not my church and my family, but other Christian influences on me as a child, the
mhm,
message was try harder, try harder, try harder, try harder, be better, be better, be better, which is I think kind of a trap, and kind of a dead end for anybody, like not just Christianity, for anybody that's a dead end. Um, and I think maybe the beauty and the truth of it is like, um, that it's not trying harder, that it's more surrender and just saying, I can't do this. Will you help me? And
yeah.
seeing and seeing that help show up over and over again, and like change in me that I can't explain, that just comes when that happens. Like when I do turn, there's change that I can't explain to you. Like it's not a matter of effort. It's not something that I did. It's just
Mhm.
like, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that on a visceral level, that makes like all the sense to me. And it actually brings to mind this quote by the Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron that
Mhm.
I will memorize someday because I use it a lot and
Mhm.
always butcher it. But
I want to hear it.
it's the essence of it is that trying to improve ourselves is inherently being aggressive toward ourselves.
See, I like that a lot. I
Yeah.
think that's really good. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. And so there is that sort of surrendering. I love that word. That's something I've thought a lot about in recent years. It's like,
Mhm.
what does it mean to really surrender to what is, and
Yeah.
yeah, and where that
Yeah.
goes.
Sure.
How does this is actually a question I've been meaning to ask you for a very long time, and it
Sure.
always slips off my radar when we're
Okay.
together. How does your faith interact with your grief?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. I think um the short answer, which I'm not good at short answers, but the short answer is it's the it's the only way that I can face it. It's like
Mhm.
it's the underlying hope. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Um, I think, yeah, that's the
Yeah.
short answer. Yeah. I think it's the only way I can face grief. Like when you lose your dad at 13 and you're like, what was that about? Or
Mhm.
when this guy in his early 20s dies and you're like, what was that about? It's like, I think the only hope is that, I don't know, life and resurrection, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
Is that I'd love to hear just like a little bit more though. I appreciate
Okay.
your attempt
Yeah.
at brevity. I'm not going to let you if that's okay.
Fair enough. I tried, for the record.
It was a really good answer.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And complete in and of itself. But I'm just curious about the like sort of the details. Like, is it the hope of reconnection and reuniting? Is it the hope of where those people that you love are now? Like,
That's
what's
such a good question. Yeah. I think selfishly, it's the hope of reconnecting and reuniting, right?
sure?
Um, and also I think the second part is like that they're okay, you know what I mean? And that they're not just like gone in the ether, I guess. And since you want my more nuanced answer, which I know you're you're used to from me, I apologize.
I love it.
Is I think that like grief is such an interesting thing because the long road of grief is a very interesting thing. And being 27 years in on my dad being gone is I'm experiencing things that I've never heard people talk about. Like everyone talks about the first couple of years of grief, and it's good that they do. That's good. But like the longer road of it is a very interesting and surprising and nuanced sort of thing. And I guess the core of your question still remains. It's like I still look forward to reconnecting, and I still rest in the assurance that my dad is somewhere and he's good, but I guess like certain people I think like get angry with God when bad things happen, and for some reason that's never been a place for me. I don't really know why. That's one of the things I'm digging into, is like, why not, like everyone else seems to get mad, why not me,
Yeah.
and I guess I have been writing about it for long enough that I've kind of thought through it a little bit. But like, I think that, yeah, my faith in grief, I think, um, if I didn't have that, then it would be crushing. Like, you and I were talking a little while ago about how, like, I have so few memories left of my dad. Like, they've just kind of fizzled over the years. And it's like, it feels like I've like lost what was left of him, and it's like, how do you face up against that without something else? It's like, if this is it, like if this life right here is it, and and when it's over, that's it, then when I lose the memories of my dad, he is gone forever. That's it. And like Christianity and scripture is not like I needed something to feel like I wasn't losing my dad, so I chose this. It's like, I think that the truth of it resonates with me. And as a happy secondary aspect of it, the hope that comes from it is helpful in the grieving process, if that makes any sense. So,
Yeah, that makes
yeah.
so much sense to me.
Oh, yeah.
I recently attended the funeral of a friend's grandmother,
Yeah.
who was a very devout Christian person.
Hmm.
And I was really interested that the funeral wasn't like sometimes I've heard the message of like, you shouldn't be sad because she's with her Lord now and everything's cool. And this one was really like, of course you're sad. And this is a huge loss to all of us as a community. And she's doing great now. I'm really happy for her, but like, we're really hurting.
Right.
And I see you as
honest.
more of that camp.
For sure. Yeah. Anytime I'm at a memorial or a funeral and the message is more honest, it resonates with me more. I don't feel like we have to pretend that we're not sad or that it's not affecting us, and I think you can be sad and truly grieve deeply and still have hope. Does that make sense? It's like, I mean, I truly do have hope and believe, but I've also been without my dad for 27 years, and to be like, that's no problem, it's kind of like, why do we feel like we have to do that? Does that make us better Christians? Does that make us better people? Does that make us positive and strong? I don't think so. I think it is like a kind of an empty dishonesty that actually hurts other people who actually are feeling really sad and are like, why do I feel this way? So
Yeah,
yeah,
well said.
well, it doesn't have to be. Yeah.
To my ear, does. So I want to just take this in one more place, if I may, which is you are an incredibly skillful business person.
Mm,
And
it's very kind of you.
I mean, it's just true. You're one of the,
So are
it's
you.
on the long, what's that?
So are you.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
It's on the long list of things I admire about you. And how you show up in business, which is very intentional and boundaried and professional. And
Thank you.
I think I already said intentional, but it's worth saying twice if I already have. Um, and I was actually just yesterday rereading some notes on a book that talks about like sort of the interaction between the part of us as humans that has to live in a world of money and commerce and those kinds of things, and then the part of us that is spiritual and sort of transcends all of that.
Yeah.
And I'm curious how you've navigated that intersection of realities.
Yet another awesome question. Yeah, I think a little bit at a time, right? Like I'm in my 10th year of running my own business, and I think that running your own business, as you very well know, um highlights things about yourself and
Yeah.
really tests your beliefs and how you apply them. And I think that those boundaries and that intentionality that you see are the result of 10 years of trying to get a little bit better every day and making mistakes and being like, you know what, I did not handle that well, and I'm going to learn from that rather than just try to act like that didn't happen. Like um and I still make tons of mistakes, but I think that like that like tension of money and, let's just say, like power or influence and all that kind of stuff, right? And then who I am as a Christian, I think that people assume that those would be like butting heads all the time, and I don't think that they have to. I think that it's like that one has to have dominance, one has to be more important, right? So like my identity as in Christ as a Christian um is up here. My identity as a husband to Faith, who's a saint, she's amazing, and then me as a father to my children, those are here, and then my business is here. So like this can't begin to take these down or affect these. So I feel very thankful that my business allows me to provide for my family. So like it serves my family. I think that if I catch myself starting to put my identity or my self-worth in what I'm doing in my business, that's a very good red flag for me to be like, okay, I think I'm getting off track a little bit. And to put comfort in money, like, things are going really well, I'm feeling good, I think like any business owner that's being honest with you would tell you that business is always a little bit like this. And are you as calm and present and um and the same down here as you are up here? And I think I've been getting better at over these 10 years of like the business is like this, I'm emotionally like this, of coming down and trying to get more flat. And I think I've gotten more flat to where like the business doesn't dictate my happiness or my identity or my or how present I am with my family, which it is very easy to let that happen. I actually have a lot of compassion and empathy for anyone who struggles with that. That's not a judgmental statement. So I guess I feel like my business is a way to support those things. My business is a way, I try to use it as a way to help people, sometimes do things for free, sometimes work with nonprofits that might not make as much business sense for me to work with, but I can help them because I believe in their mission. So I guess I try to, I don't know, I don't really consider them maybe as separate as people might think, but actually a lot of people do sort of wonder like, am I this sort of like Mr. Burns in my office, and then I go home and I'm, like, just this, little saint at home, and then I go back and I'm like, ooh, where's all the money? It's like, I just, yeah, I can't be, I can't be two separate people like that.
This
Um,
image of like a little hook by the door of your office where you put your hello, and then you're like, okay.
hang this up until later, put on the horns for work. It's like, yeah, I don't know. I just don't know how that could be, but, um, I, I've been shy to ask you questions, but like, how about you? Like, do you struggle with that, that, I guess, tension?
Oh, I think for a long time I've really demonized money, and
Yeah,
that's created a really tense relationship with it.
yeah, I get that.
Um, yeah. And so I think probably that has led me to sometimes having weaker boundaries
Mm,
around business, or um, yeah, I think that's probably a good way to say it. Weaker
sure,
boundaries around business than have
mm,
been helpful to me or my clients,
sure, yeah,
and that's something
yeah,
that I've really learned a lot about from you and really admire in you, is that you are, like I said earlier, you're very, very boundaried. And so people, you're not, you're not like, um, yeah, gosh, how to say this? Like, people know what to expect from you. Like, if they're
mm,
paying attention when they work with you, they know exactly what to expect with you, right?
it means a lot. Thank you.
And if they're paying attention, they're going to have a really fantastic experience. And I've watched you over the years do like one tweak after another to
Mm,
really be as overt and transparent and clear about those boundaries as possible, so that everybody
mm,
can wind up on the end feeling really good. Whereas in my experiences of not being boundaried enough, I think I've sometimes gotten myself into places where I was uncomfortable, or where a client felt in some way blindsided because I wasn't
mm.
overt enough. And then I got to a place where the relationship wasn't feeling good or something like that.
It's happened
Uh,
to me too. Yeah, totally. Yeah. I
yeah.
I still, yeah, totally
Yeah.
get that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, to your point, like seeing, as I've been practicing doing in recent years, really seeing everything about my business, including the money part, as an extension of my values,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Is
That's a good way to say it. Yeah. That's exactly what I was trying to say. Well said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I love that. Yeah, and in that way, I see that compatibility. And so I feel like that book that I was reading, which was a terrible book, but made enough good points that so I'm not even gonna like mention the title of it because it was awful, but
Right, right.
it made enough good points that I was like, okay.
That's
Um,
awesome.
really helped me see with a little more clarity. I've been doing the doings of
Hmm.
sort of taking away that judgment of money and just seeing it as an inherent part, right, as a way
Yeah.
to enliven the values.
Right.
And that,
Yeah.
yeah, and what you said was really exactly what the book said, which was like the spiritual aspect has to be up here,
Yeah. I
right?
think it does. Yeah.
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 Um, we've been talking about this the whole way, but I want to just ask the question anyway, in case there's anything you want to add. But like, what are the tools, internal or external, that are supporting you as you're navigating
Hmm.
what you've been all up in?
I love that. Well, I have this friend, SB, who is a huge support to me. And such a, uh, maybe one of the most active, helpful listeners I think I've ever met in my life,
Mm.
and so insightful. And you are so good at, um, I'll ramble for 15 minutes and then you're like, oh, I heard exactly what you meant in this. And it's like, and a friendship like that is a blessing. That's kind of the way my wife Faith is as well. She's very good at, yes, and this, which I very much appreciate. And I would say also, like, the tools that I'm using, I've been trying to develop my internal tools of like just being honest with myself, and like being like, this is my fault. This is what I did. This is my mistake, and there's nobody else to blame. Like, this thing went badly because I chose to do this, And I can either be like, I can either say it's not my fault. I can say, well, that won't happen again. Or I can be like, this is going to happen again if I don't change something, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and also, you know, kind of like we've talked about, like, the Bible is very central to all that. It's my guiding truth.
Mhm.
Um, and I think also, like, seeing the focus on the important things bear fruit is also like an encouraging sign. You know what I mean? It's like,
Mhm.
okay, I did encourage, I did focus on the right things. It's like, my relationships with my kids have all deepened because, um, I've been even more intentional, and I've always thought they're amazing, and I always have spent time with them, but even more so now. So it's like seeing that play out. Um, but yeah, I think really good friendships. I have another guy, I don't want to embarrass him, that I go to lunch with once a month, and he's a very good, he has a very good perspective on life.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I think I have always had friendships with older guys, not on purpose, just have. So I have a couple friendships with these gentlemen in their 60s that I hang out with a lot, and I love hearing their perspective and what is important to them now, you know, because I feel like it's sort of a little view 20 years ahead of like, if that's important to them, it's going to be important to me too, you
Mhm.
know. So yeah, I don't know, just
Mm.
more rambling for you to sort through, but yeah, those are the tools. I
No,
read sometimes.
yes, that's beautiful. And, you know, like it actually, part of that takes us back to something you said at the very beginning of this conversation, which is, um, you alluded to earlier, you know, doing with and being with, right?
Hmm.
Like that this is a communal existence and we really
Yeah,
do need each other.
I think
Um,
so.
yeah, in addition
Yeah,
to just sort of being enhanced by each other. Like I think we truly need each other as
for
humans.
sure, for
Yeah.
sure.
And I also am a big fan of intergenerational friendships. And I feel really sad for people who only have friends their own ages.
Me
We
too.
miss a lot when we don't have younger and older people in our lives.
Absolutely. Younger too. You're exactly right. I do have some
You do.
friendships with younger people too, and it's good. It's good.
Yeah. Parker Palmer has this beautiful image in his book On the Brink of Everything, where he talks about older in intergenerational relationships. That he compares it to a symphony, and that the older
Mhm.
players can teach the younger players to play their instruments more quickly and with more finesse, and then the younger players can hear the emerging tunes more easily.
Oh, I like that a lot. I think
Yeah,
that's true. I like
yeah,
that. Hmm.
yeah. I thought it was a really beautiful analogy.
It is. Yeah.
Well, my friend, as always, I could spend a whole lot more time with you, and I'm
Same.
grateful that that will happen in our future. I
Same.
hope. No telling the future, but I'm planning on it.
Same. Yeah,
So my last question is just if there's a nonprofit that you'd like to highlight and share with folks.
for sure. So I put a lot of thought in this. I wasn't sure which one to choose, but the one that just kept popping in my mind, my wife and I have been involved with this nonprofit called Safe Families for a while. And I know I've told you about it. I'm sorry to go through the whole thing
I'm
again,
happy to hear about it again.
but Safe Families is designed at its core. There's a lot of different explanations of it, but it's designed to keep kids out of the foster care system. So if there are people that know that they're not going to be able to take care of their kids for a certain amount of time, like if they are going to jail for a month, or if they can't provide housing or something like that, rather than wait for DSS to come and get involved, which um, we're big supporters of DSS. We're a DSS foster family. We think they do great things, but you have to have a judge involved to get your kids back, and it's a big long process, and there's a lot of paperwork. Safe Families allows people um, to voluntarily have a safe family that's been vetted. Like we've been vetted through DSS and Safe Families, and it was the exact same vetting process. And we've had a few kids come into our home for like a few weeks or a month, and it's just a power of attorney, and the parent can have their kids back in any time. Safe Families is a national organization. The local chapter here, excuse me, is run by Patrick Henry Family Services in Lynchburg. So big fans of Safe Families because think if we can keep kids out of the foster care system and stabilize families so they can continue to make individual independent decisions, then I think we're better off. So that was the one that popped into my mind more than any other.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I've
Thank
really
you.
admired watching you all.
Oh, well, thanks. It's been an honor. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're such a team, the whole family, not just you
Yeah.
and Faith,
Thank
but
you.
like the kids too.
I'm thankful. That's because they do that. They step up. I mean, I don't think we could do it if they weren't as into it. They're really so sweet and kind. So,
It's
yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, my friend, I hope that anybody watching enjoyed this mutual admiration club of two that we've been cultivating for many years.
You're the best. I don't know what to say. I'm sorry.
It's just a fact that you are amazing and that I'm so grateful for our friendship.
Likewise. Thank you.
Yeah.
Very thankful. And thanks for asking me to do this. It's been fun.
Thank you for agreeing. This is just delightful. I've been
Of course.
so looking forward to this.
Likewise. Thank you. Yeah.
And I am wishing you and myself and anybody watching or listening ease and joy in the midst of whatever our learning curves.
Agreed. Yeah.